Your waiting was not wasted, though every nerve in you may have whispered otherwise. You attempted to measure the long corridor of days with a ruler of impatience, to mark off each unanswered prayer as a loss, each delayed hope as a quiet defeat. Yet there is a peculiar arithmetic in the economy of God, one that does not count as we count, nor rush as we rush, nor discard what we are too quick to call useless. The seasons you thought were empty were not barren at all. They were filled with unseen roots pressing down into soil you could not yet admire. You mistook silence for absence, stillness for neglect, and delay for denial. But the silence was not empty, it was attentive. The stillness was not neglect, it was careful arrangement. And the delay was not denial, it was preparation dressed in plain clothes. There is a strange comfort in believing that our waiting is pointless, because if it is pointless, then we may abandon it without grief. But to believe that God wastes time is to misunderstand both time and God. Time, in His hands, is not a hallway to be hurried through, but a workshop where things are fashioned slowly enough to last. He does not carve with haste, because haste leaves splinters. He does not rush the sunrise, because light that arrives before its hour only blinds. What you call waiting was not a holding cell, it was a shaping room. You were not set aside, you were being set right. You see, promises are not merely gifts to be handed over, they are futures to be entered, and no one enters a future without being fitted for it. The weight of what God promised you required a strengthening you did not yet possess. The breadth of it required a stretching you might have resisted had you known the full extent. So the waiting came, not as punishment, but as mercy. It spared you from receiving too soon what would have crushed you, rather than crowned you. It guarded you from stepping into blessing with a heart too brittle to carry it. You thought the waiting was about the thing you wanted, but it was also about the person you were becoming. While you were watching the clock, heaven was watching your character. While you were counting the days, God was counting the ways your faith learned to stand without props. The waiting taught you how to pray without bargaining, how to hope without evidence, how to trust without a timetable. It trained your eyes to look beyond quick outcomes and your soul to rest in promises that do not announce their arrival with fanfare. It is easy to believe God is good when answers come swiftly, when doors swing open at the first knock. It is far harder and far more valuable to believe He is good when the door remains closed and the hallway grows long. Yet it is in that long hallway that faith learns to walk without leaning on sight. It is there that you discover whether you wanted the promise more than the promiser, the gift more than the giver. And God, who is gentle but honest, will not allow a good thing to replace Him as your highest love. The waiting also stripped away illusions. Some desires you held dear quietly loosened their grip, not because they were evil, but because they were incomplete. You learned the difference between what you wanted and what you needed, between what would have satisfied your moment and what would sustain your life. God did not tease you with delay, He refined your appetite. He taught you to hunger for things that endure rather than sparkle briefly. And though refinement feels like loss at the time, it is actually the clearing of space for something truer to take root. You wondered if you had missed your moment, if the promise had an expiration date stamped invisibly upon it. But promises from God do not sour with time, they ripen. They are not like bread left too long on the counter, growing stale and useless. They are more like wine set aside, deepening in strength and richness as the years pass. The waiting did not weaken the promise, it matured it. It did not shrink the future, it enlarged it. Even now, as you stand on the edge of what feels like another ordinary day, there is movement you cannot see. Locks are not undone with noise but with precision. Keys are turned quietly, deliberately, at exactly the right angle. God is not frantic in His unlocking, He is exact. He knows which doors must open first and which must remain closed a little longer, so that when the promise arrives, it finds you not frantic, not fearful, but ready. There were prayers you prayed in the waiting that you barely remember now, whispered more out of exhaustion than expectation. Do not assume they were ignored simply because you forgot them. God remembers what we forget, especially the prayers soaked in sincerity rather than eloquence. He heard the ones you prayed with tears in your throat, the ones you could not finish properly, the ones that sounded more like sighs than sentences. He stored them, not as evidence against you, but as reminders of your dependence. And dependence, strange as it sounds, is the posture that opens the hand to receive. If you could see the full map of your life, you would understand why the road curved when you wanted it straight, why it dipped when you wanted it high. But God does not reveal the whole map, not because he enjoys mystery for its own sake, but because walking by trust forms muscles that sight never could. He invites you to place your foot down before you see the next stone, to lean your weight on his word rather than your understanding. And each step taken this way trains you to recognize his voice more clearly than any visible sign ever would. You were tempted to compare your timeline with others, to wonder why their doors seemed to open so effortlessly while yours remained stubbornly shut. Comparison is a cleve, a thief. It steals joy by convincing you that someone else's story is the standard by which yours must be judged. But God writes no duplicate stories. He does not recycle callings or mass-produce destinies. What he is unlocking for you is tailored to the contours of your life, shaped by your experiences and aligned with your unique purpose. The waiting ensured that you would not mistake someone else's door for your own. There is also this truth, uncomfortable but necessary. Some doors did not open because God was protecting you from what lay on the other side. You may have knocked with sincerity, even with desperation, but sincerity alone does not sanctify every desire. A loving God refuses requests that would harm us, even when we cannot yet see the harm. The waiting, in those cases, was a shield. And now, as he prepares to unlock what he truly promised, you may find that you no longer want what you once begged for, because your vision has been healed. You are not standing at the threshold empty-handed. The waiting filled you with wisdom you did not have before, patience you once lacked, compassion you once found difficult. It taught you how to sit with unanswered questions without letting them poison your faith. It showed you how to praise without applause and obey without immediate reward. These are not small gains. They are the quiet riches that ensure the promise will not undo you when it arrives. God is not about to unlock something randomly, as though spinning a W, heel and hoping for the best. He is unlocking what he promised, which means it is bound to his word, his character, and his timing. And his timing, though often misunderstood, is not arbitrary. It is precise to the point of seeming slow. He waits until circumstances align, yes, but more importantly, until hearts align, when what he gives will draw you closer rather than pull you away, when the blessing will deepen your worship rather than dilute it, when the gift will serve love rather than ego. You may feel unprepared still, convinced that if the door opened today you would falter. But readiness is not the absence of fear, it is the presence of trust. God does not wait until you feel confident. He waits until you are willing to step forward even with trembling knees, willing to rely on grace rather than self-assurance, willing to admit that without him you can do nothing. The waiting taught you that lesson well, even if you would never have chosen that classroom. As the promise approaches, you might notice a holy restlessness stirring within you, a sense that the ground beneath your feet is shifting. This is not anxiety, it is anticipation. It is the soul recognizing that change is near, that the chapter you have lingered in is nearing its final sentences, even if the page is not yet turned. Do not rush the turning. Pages tear when forced. Let God turn it in his time with his steady hand. Remember that unlocking is not the same as completion, a door opening does not mean the journey ends, it means it changes. There will still be steps to take, choices to make, obedience to practice daily. The promise is not an escape from faith but an invitation into deeper faith, and the waiting has already trained you for that depth more than you realize. You might be tempted, when the door opens, to explain away the waiting as unnecessary, to say you could have managed without it. But someday, perhaps quietly and without ceremony, You will look back and see how each delayed moment fit perfectly into the pattern of your life. You will see how the patience you learned saved you from despair later, how the humility you gained protected you from pride, how the resilience you developed enabled you to stand when circumstances shook others. You will see that nothing was wasted. Not a tear, not a prayer, not a single long night. Even now, God is closer than you think. He is not on the other side of the door, shouting instructions from afar. He stands with you, hand on the key, aware of your doubts and hopes, unoffended by your questions, unmoved by your impatience, yet deeply moved by your trust. He has not forgotten what he promised, and he has not forgotten you. The waiting has not weakened his intention, it has clarified it. So if your heart feels heavy with years that seem to slip through your fingers, hear this gently. Those years did not slip away. They were gathered, weighed, and woven into the very promise you are about to receive. What is being unlocked is not merely a reward at the end of endurance, it is the unfolding of a purpose that required endurance to be fully known. And as the lock begins to turn, as the hinge prepares to move, you may sense that the story is far from finished, that this opening leads not to an ending but to a wider passage, one that calls you forward still, inviting you to walk into what was promised with the same faith that carried you through the waiting, and even now continues to shape the next step you are about to take as the door slowly, deliberately begins to open and the light from beyond touches the floor at your feet, asking you not to rush but to rise, to trust, and to move forward into what is being revealed, even as it is still unfolding before you, with more yet to come as the path ahead continues to stretch onward, drawing you further into the purpose that has been quietly forming all along. And as that light stretches farther across the floor, it reveals not a sudden leap into clarity, but a gradual widening of vision, the kind that does not overwhelm the eyes but teaches them how to see. You begin to notice that the promise unfolding before you carries familiar textures, threads from your past, woven into something new. Nothing in God's work is detached from what came before. He redeems rather than replaces. The waiting seasons you thought were disconnected now appear as necessary chapters, each contributing a strength or insight that the future quietly demands of you. You may still feel the instinct to brace yourself, as though blessing must always arrive with impact, as though joy must be survived rather than received. But the God who allowed the waiting is the same God who governs the fulfillment, and he does not delight in shocking his children into submission. He leads them into truth patiently, teaching them to recognize his footsteps so that when he moves, they are not startled but steady. The unlocking does not thunder, it whispers. It invites rather than commands. It honors the growth you endured by allowing you to step forward with awareness rather than confusion. It is important to remember that faith shaped in waiting is different from faith born in immediacy. Immediate faith often depends on visible reinforcement. It grows quickly, but can fade just as fast when conditions change. Waiting faith grows underground, unseen, pressing through resistance until it becomes resilient. You carry that kind of faith now, even if you do not feel impressive or strong. It is the kind that holds when applause disappears, when outcomes shift, when obedience becomes costly again. God is about to entrust you with what he promised precisely because your faith no longer collapses at the first sign of uncertainty. There will be moments when you question whether you are truly allowed to receive what is opening before you. Old habits of self-doubt may surface, reminding you of failures you thought you had buried, mistakes you assumed disqualified you. But God does not unlock promises for flawless people. He unlocks them for transformed ones. The waiting transformed you, not by erasing your weaknesses, but by teaching you where to bring them. You learned to carry your insufficiency into his presence, rather than hide it behind effort. That honesty has prepared you far more than perfection ever could. Do not be surprised if joy feels unfamiliar at first, as though you have forgotten how to hold it without suspicion. Long waiting trains the heart to expect disappointment, to keep hope restrained so that loss will hurt less if it comes. God understands this instinct. He does not demand that you trust instantly or celebrate loudly. He invites you to learn joy again, gently, like stretching a muscle that has not been used in a while. He is patient with your caution, because he knows how long you learn to survive without answers. As the promise unfolds, you may find yourself grieving, even as you rejoice, mourning the years that seemed heavy with longing. This grief is not ingratitude, it is honesty. You are allowed to acknowledge that the waiting was hard, that it cost you something, even while recognizing that it shaped you. God is not threatened by your mixed emotions. He is not offended by your complexity. He meets you in it, reminding you that redemption does not require forgetting pain, only trusting that pain was not final. There is also a humility that comes with fulfilled promises, a quiet awareness that what you are stepping into was not earned by endurance alone. You did not outlast God into agreement. You were carried, sustained, corrected, and protected more times than you can count. The waiting revealed how much of your journey depended on grace rather than grit. This humility will serve you well in the days ahead, guarding you against pride when progress appears, anchoring you when success tempts you to forget where your strength truly comes from. You may notice that some people who walked with you during the waiting cannot follow you through the door now opening. This is not a judgment against them, nor a reward reserved for you. It is simply the reality that seasons change, and not every relationship is meant to continue unchanged into the future. God does not sever connections carelessly, but He does realign them purposefully. Trust Him with the shifts. The waiting already taught you how to release what no longer fits without bitterness, how to bless what must end without resentment. At the same time, new companions may appear, people whose presence feels timely rather than coincidental. They will speak languages your heart now understands, values your spirit recognizes. These connections will not replace the old ones, they will complement the new season. God often introduces provision through people, wisdom through conversation, encouragement through shared vision. The waiting refined your discernment so that you can recognize these gifts without clinging to them as source. Instead of instruments. As you step forward, you may realize that the promise requires participation rather than observation. God unlocks doors, but He does not drag you through them. He invites obedience that is active, responsive, sometimes inconvenient. The waiting prepared you for this kind of obedience, one that is not fueled by urgency but by trust. You learn to act without guarantees, to say yes without full explanations, to move forward without knowing how everything would resolve. This posture will carry you through what comes next more effectively than certainty ever could. There will still be questions, still moments when clarity lags behind calling. Fulfillment does not eliminate mystery, it deepens it. You are stepping into a larger story now, one that will stretch your understanding again, though in different ways. But you are not stepping in as the person you were when the waiting began. You carry perspective now. You know that God remains faithful even when explanations are delayed. You know that silence does not equal absence. You know that obedience is worthwhile even when outcomes are unseen. Be mindful not to rush ahead of God once the door opens. Waiting taught you patience, but momentum can tempt you into haste. Blessings, like beginnings, require stewardship. Move attentively, listen carefully, allow space for correction. God unlocks promises, but He continues to guide within them. The same voice that sustained you in delay will direct you in full. Fulfillment, if you remain attentive. You may feel a renewed sense of responsibility accompanying the promise, an awareness that what you receive is meant to bless others as well as yourself. God rarely fulfills promises in isolation. They ripple outward, touching lives you have not yet considered. The waiting cultivated compassion in you, so that you would not hoard what you receive. You learned what it feels like to need, to hope, to endure. That memory will shape how you extend grace, how you speak encouragement, how you serve without superiority. There is also a quiet courage emerging in you now, one that does not announce itself loudly. It is the courage that comes from surviving uncertainty without losing faith. It allows you to take risks without recklessness, to step into responsibility without fear of failure defining you. You know now that even if things unfold differently than expected, God remains present, resourceful, redemptive. This confidence is not arrogance, it is assurance grounded in experience. As the promise continues to reveal itself, you may find that some parts arrive incrementally rather than all at once. God often fulfills in layers, allowing understanding and capacity to grow alongside provision. Do not mistake gradual fulfillment for partial obedience on His part. He is intentional. Each layer serves a purpose, teaching you something necessary for the next. The waiting taught you how to recognize progress even when it comes quietly. You might also notice that gratitude deepens as fulfillment unfolds, not because everything becomes easy, but because you recognize the gift more clearly. Waiting sharpens appreciation. What comes quickly is often taken lightly. What comes after endurance is held with reverence. Your gratitude will not be performative or shallow. It will be rooted, steady, expressed in faithfulness rather than noise. God is not merely restoring what you thought was lost. He is revealing what was being formed all along. Some outcomes will exceed your original expectations, not in spectacle, but in substance. You asked for answers, He cultivated wisdom. You asked for relief, He developed resilience. You asked for direction, He trained discernment. Now, as the promise unfolds, you will see how these internal gifts support the external ones, creating a wholeness you did not know to request. Be patient with yourself as you adjust to this new season. Transition, even into good things, requires recalibration. Allow yourself time to learn new rhythms, to establish new boundaries, to rest where striving once dominated. God does not unlock promises so that you may immediately exhaust yourself maintaining them. He invites you to live from provision rather than pressure, from trust rather than anxiety. You will still encounter resistance at times, moments when progress feels contested. This does not mean the promise is fragile. It means it matters. Growth attracts opposition, but opposition does not determine outcome. The waiting already taught you how to stand without panic, how to respond without bitterness, how to persevere without hardening your heart. These lessons will surface naturally when needed, reminding you that you are not entering unfamiliar territory unarmed. As you continue forward, keep returning to the simple truth that sustained you in the waiting. God is faithful. Not abstractly, not philosophically, but personally, deliberately, consistently. He has been faithful in shaping you, faithful in guarding the promise, faithful in choosing the right moment to unlock what He spoke. That faithfulness does not expire with fulfillment, it accompanies it. There may come moments when you are tempted to measure success by visibility or affirmation. Resist this gently. God values faithfulness over recognition, obedience over applause. The waiting helped detach your identity from immediate results. Carry that freedom with you. Let your worth remain anchored in who you are to God, not in what the promise produces through you. As the path continues to unfold, you may sense that what is being unlocked leads to further doors, further invitations, further trust. God rarely reveals the entire journey at once. He leads step by step, moment by moment, cultivating dependence not as weakness but as connection. The waiting initiated that dependence. Fulfillment continues it. And so you walk forward now, not rushed, not hesitant, but attentive, aware that the story is still being written. Hat, what has opened before you is both an answer and an invitation, drawing you deeper into purpose, deeper into trust, deeper into the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that the same God who carried you through the waiting remains present as the promise continues to unfold. With more ahead, more to discover, more to become, as the journey moves onward and the light keeps widening, inviting you to take the next step and then the next. As the unfolding continues without conclusion, still opening, still forming, still leading you forward into what has been prepared. And as you take those steps, you may notice that the ground beneath you feels different, firmer in places where once it seemed uncertain, yet strangely softer, where you expected resistance. This is not contradiction, but confirmation that God prepares both the path and the traveler together. He hardens what must support you and softens what must receive you. The waiting trained your feet to recognize this balance, to know when to press forward and when to tread lightly. You are not wandering now, you are walking with awareness shaped by patience. You may also discover that memory begins to reinterpret itself. Events you once filed under disappointment start to speak again, offering meaning that was not audible before. Conversations that ended abruptly, opportunities that vanished without explanation, detours that felt unnecessary, now appear as gentle redirections. God does not rewrite your past, but He reframes it, allowing you to see how His hand was present, even when His voice seemed quiet. This reframing is part of the unlocking, because it frees you from carrying regret into a future that requires lightness of spirit. There will be moments when the promise invites you to act in ways that feel disproportionate to your sense of readiness. You may be asked to speak when you feel unpolished, to lead when you still feel like a learner, to give when you remember too clearly what it was like to lack. These invitations are not tests designed to expose weakness. They are opportunities to practice reliance. God does not wait until your confidence matches the calling. He grows confidence through obedience. The waiting taught you how to move forward, even when your emotions lag behind your faith. Do not be surprised if the fulfillment awakens a deeper hunger, rather than a sense of completion. God's promises do not exhaust desire, they refine it. As one hope is realized, another may surface, quieter but more profound. This is not dissatisfaction, it is expansion. Your capacity to desire what aligns with God's heart has grown. The waiting cleared space for this kind of longing, one that seeks not novelty but depth, not accumulation but alignment. You may also notice that your prayers change. They may become less urgent, less crowded with requests, more spacious and attentive. Waiting taught you how to listen as much as speak, how to sit with God without filling the silence. Fulfillment does not eliminate this posture, it deepens it. You pray now not merely for outcomes, but for wisdom, not only for provision, but for stewardship, not only for guidance, but for faithfulness. These prayers reflect a heart that has learned trust through endurance. As the promise continues to unfold, you may encounter moments of resistance within yourself, subtle hesitations that arise not from fear of failure, but from fear of change. Even good change disrupts familiarity. The waiting became a known landscape, its rhythms predictable even in their difficulty. Stepping into fulfillment requires releasing the identity you formed around endurance alone. God invites you to let go of survival as your primary mode, and to learn how to live from abundance without guilt. This transition takes time, and God is patient with it. You might find yourself revisiting old disciplines, not out of necessity, but out of gratitude. Practices that sustained you during the waiting. Prayer, reflection, service, quiet obedience now become anchors that keep you grounded as new responsibilities emerge. God does not ask you to abandon what formed you. He asks you to carry it forward, allowing past faithfulness to inform present choices. There will be days when progress feels ordinary, when nothing remarkable seems to happen. Do not mistake ordinariness for stagnation. God often works most profoundly through consistency rather than spectacle. The waiting taught you to value small faithfulness, unseen obedience. Quiet perseverance. These habits will sustain you long after the initial excitement of fulfillment fades. They are the steady flame that remains when sparks have passed. You may also recognize that some of the promise manifests internally before it becomes visible externally. Peace may arrive before circumstances fully align. Clarity may settle before direction becomes public. Confidence may grow before opportunity expands. God often completes His work within before displaying it without. The waiting trained you to recognize these internal shifts as genuine progress, not placeholders. As you continue forward, remain attentive to gratitude, not as an obligation but as a lens. Gratitude sharpens perception. It allows you to notice provision without anxiety, to receive without entitlement, to give without calculation. The waiting taught you the cost of assuming tomorrow would be easier than today. Gratitude keeps you present, aware that each step forward is a gift rather than an achievement. You may encounter voices that question your readiness, some external, some internal. They may remind you of past failures, of times you doubted, of moments you nearly gave up. Do not silence these voices with denial. Answer them with truth. You are not here because you were flawless, but because God was faithful. The waiting revealed how often He sustained you despite your uncertainty. Let that memory ground you when doubts arise. As the promise unfolds, you may sense a growing responsiveness, ability to protect what has been entrusted to you, not to guard it with fear, but to steward it with care. God does not unlock promises to be consumed carelessly. He unlocks them to be cultivated. This cultivation requires patience, attentiveness, and humility. The waiting already practiced these qualities in you. Now they find application in a different form. There will still be moments of waiting ahead, though different in texture from before. Fulfillment does not eliminate delay, it reframes it. You wait now not in uncertainty about God's faithfulness, but in confidence that timing remains purposeful. These smaller waits will not unsettle you as deeply, because you carry evidence within you that God's delays are not empty. They are active, intentional, aligned with growth. You may also discover that your story becomes a quiet encouragement to others, not because you announce it loudly, but because your presence carries steadiness. People sense when someone has endured without becoming bitter, waited without abandoning hope. They may ask how you held on, how you trusted when answers were slow. You will find that your response is less about technique and more about testimony, less about strategy and more about relationship. As the path continues, remain aware that God's promises often exceed the boundaries we initially imagine. What you thought would fulfill you may become a platform for further service, further growth, further surrender. God does not give merely to satisfy, He gives to involve. The waiting trained you to recognize involvement as privilege rather than burden. You may feel moments of vulnerability as visibility increases, as responsibility expands. These moments are not indicators of weakness. They are reminders to remain connected. God does not intend for fulfillment to isolate you. Stay rooted in community, in accountability, in shared faith. The waiting taught you how to lean without losing dignity. Continue that posture now. As you move forward, allow yourself to remember the early days of waiting, not with resentment, but with respect. That version of you, weary yet faithful, uncertain yet hopeful, laid the groundwork for where you stand now. Honor that journey by continuing to trust God with the same sincerity that carried you through uncertainty. There will be opportunities to choose generosity over accumulation, obedience over convenience, integrity over expedience. These choices shape the promise as much as receiving it does. God unlocks doors, but character determines what happens inside. The waiting refined your character not as an abstract virtue, but as a practical foundation for decisions you now face. You may also find that rest becomes more intentional, not merely recovery from exhaustion, but celebration of provision. God invites you to rest not because the work is finished, but because trust has matured. Rest becomes an act of faith, a declaration that outcomes do not depend solely on your effort. The waiting taught you the limits of striving. Fulfillment invites you to live within those limits without fear. As the journey continues, keep listening for God's voice in ordinary moments. He often speaks not through dramatic interruption, but through quiet alignment, through peace that settles unexpectedly, through conviction that guides gently rather than coerces. The waiting sharpened your ability to discern this voice. Continue to honor it now. You may notice that what once seemed impossible now feels simply challenging. This shift is not arrogance, it is perspective gained through endurance. God does not remove challenges to prove His presence. He equips you to face them without losing heart. The waiting strengthened your endurance so that challenge no longer signals abandonment. As you walk further into what is being unlocked, you may realize that the promise is not static. It grows, adapts, responds to obedience. God invites collaboration, not passive reception. Your choices matter. Your faithfulness matters. The waiting instilled this awareness, teaching you that trust is active, not dormant. And so the path continues, unfolding without hurry, without finality, inviting you to remain attentive, responsive, faithful. What was promised is being revealed, not as a single moment to be captured, but as a living journey to be inhabited. You move forward now with memory as teacher, faith as companion, and hope as orientation, aware that the same God who shaped you in waiting walks with you in fulfillment, still guiding, still forming, still inviting you onward as the story continues to open, step by step, without closure, without conclusion, still unfolding. So stand now without apology for the years you waited, without shame for the tears you shed, without regret for the pace at which God chose to work. Let the final word over your story be trust, not delay, faith, not frustration, fulfillment, not fear. What God promised has not been weakened by time, nor diminished by silence, nor cancelled by uncertainty. It has been guarded, refined, and prepared with the same intentional love that shaped you in the waiting. Walk forward with quiet confidence, knowing that the God who taught you how to wait has now taught you how to receive, and that every step ahead rests not on chance or effort alone, but on a promise that was always alive, always secure, and always moving toward this very moment.